Alright, this is a very quick video just to explain the topic social policy. So this is a 33 mark question for the family topic, and it says outline and evaluate the view that family's policy supports the traditional family in the contemporary UK. So firstly, we've got an introduction. We define the key words. Social policies are rules, frameworks and guidelines which are introduced to deal with social issues such as family life, crime, poverty. Social policies limit or restrict freedoms in terms of family types, relationships, organisation and structure. They can also encourage and reward particular forms of families. We could talk about the traditional family being the nuclear family, two parents, children, the own or cohabited, own or adopted of two parents of the opposite sex, because this is defined as being a socially approved sexual relationship by Murdoch, which usually means marriage, which usually means heterosexual. People living in the same household, and the contemporary UK can be defined as diverse, with insecure economy, more permissive culture, and more secular. So there's evidence that social policy does support the traditional family. David Cameron has talked about, as Prime Minister of the UK, broken society and broken Britain. So he pledged to introduce a family-friendly manifesto, investing in more health visitors and support for new parents. Functionists would say this is beneficial for society because the family is the keystone of society, providing for the needs in terms of socialisation, education, sexual needs, educational needs in terms of norms and values, economic needs in terms of support and material life, and reproductive needs for the continuation of society, which according to Murdoch are the needs of society which the family provides for. However, you can argue that there is diversity in society and in family life. New Labour and Cameron's coalition supports family diversity because they don't define the family based on traditional opposite sex relationships. New Labour supported the New Deal, which supported mothers back to work more quickly, and this could be seen as going against the traditional family with a female homemaker. Also, David Cameron has legalised same-sex marriage, and this suggests that he is trying to appeal to diverse families and members of society, but it does suggest that family policy is heading in the direction of diversity more than tradition. The Marxists argue the economic system of capitalism explains the reason for most social policies focusing on issues like tax and welfare in a relatively conservative way. In other words, they don't change society that much and they retain the basic expectation of a traditional family. For example, there has been a growth in women working, but this has been mainly part-time work, and 2/3 of women working part-time work, despite the big increase. So most policies are conservative and tend to change family life in a small way. However, there are policies like shared paternity leave, which postmodernists might argue are supporting choices in family life because the male and female, or both of the partners, whether male or female, can choose how they wish to share the first 9 months of leave. This suggests that choice and individualisation is part of family life. This would be supported by Giddens, who talks about confluent love and pure relationships, where the mutual needs of each partner must be met for the relationship to continue. Feminists like Oakley would say part-time work is unsatisfactory, since this is a majority type of work that women do. Social policies haven't encouraged women enough to be able to take part in work and leave and be liberated from the family home. Jermaine Greer talks about patriarchy affecting wives, mothers and daughters, And so again, she would encourage the idea of matrilocal families where women live together separate from adult men. And she might support the view that social policies don't encourage and support women enough, because women tend to be stigmatised when they are being mothers. Their bodies are criticised and the way they feed their children in terms of breastfeeding in public is often seen as disgusting. And this is something that she thinks is shameful, and it is further evidence of the exploitation of women. Divorce. Contemporary trends in divorce show that since the 1970s it's increased when divorce was legalised. In more recent times it has plateaued out and started to decline slightly. However, generally we can see that social policies have made divorce more easy and cheap, and therefore the traditional family is less common because people are able to choose to separate. The decline in marriage is another trend which again could be seen as linked to the rise in divorce and people's increasing high expectations of marriage. Allen and Crow would support the postmodernist view that there's greater individualisation. People are increasingly choosing to live in family types that suit them. Judith Stacey talks about the family being diverse and the postmodern family. She studied families in the Silicon Valley in America in the 1980s, where there's a great deal of diversity, and the type of family you lived in during your life course didn't follow a coherent logical structure or traditional order, and tended to be dependent on choice, not duty and tradition. This is linked to social policy because obviously the Divorce Act and permissiveness towards different types of families exists. Post-feminist Hakim is influenced by postmodernist theory, so she talks about preference. She says that people choose their roles based on preferences. Women now have the freedom and equality to be able to go to work or stay at home or mix those roles. She says 60% of women are adaptive, which means they combine both work and home, which she says illustrates that social policy has given women freedom, and they're making choices that tend to emphasise tradition as well as changes. The New Right are concerned that a great deal of social policy has led to a permissive culture and benefit dependency. So thinkers like Charles Murray argue that it's led to the decline of traditional family life, which has been harmful, leads to irresponsible, feckless fathers and mothers married to the state. For example, the Divorce Act and benefits for single mothers tend to reward those immoral behaviours. So the New Right want to penalise illegitimacy and to reward marriage. In looking at a conclusion, we need to make a decisive judgment, and we can say overall there are a great number of policies on the family, many of which do support traditional family life. David Cameron still wishes to reintroduce the married couple's tax allowance, because at the moment the tax system tends to reward singlehood more than marriage and partnerships. However, that hasn't been introduced yet, and the majority of policies seem to be going in the direction of change more than continuity.